Hey, it's Will from Heeman's, and we are now in winter decorating season, which means that it's time to refresh those pots that you have out on your porch and make them something that's going to be looking great all winter long. And that means that we got to select some greens. And if you've ever come into a store like Heeman's, or if you are harvesting from around your house or maybe from your neighbor's house, you'll know that there's tons of different options and they all look different. And what I wanted to do today is demystify some of them and explain some of our favorites and how you want to work with them. So the first one that we love to work with is red pine, and this is not one that you're going to find around Ontario in the south because this one comes from the Ottawa area, but it has very thick needles and it's great for standing upright in the back of your arrangements, kind of as the backbone or the skeleton of your pot. Once we have that pine in there, then we want to work with another pine, white pine, because we're Canadian, so red and then white. And with our white pine we have this beautiful softer needles, and even just when you pick it up you'll see that it's very soft and floppy. You don't want to make your entire arrangement out of this, because if you did, when you get that snow and that heavy wind going, it will really flop down. But this is great for filling in. It gives you nice volume in there, and it will help you to get that nice shape of your arrangement. So you're going to use the red pine and then the white pine, and afterwards you're going to be looking at going, this is really nice, but there's a whole lot of pine in my arrangement. So that's where we like to break up that pine party with some cedar. This cedar is also again from Ontario, so all three of these greens are grown right here in Ontario, which means they're going to handle the winter very well. This cedar has a very noticeable front and a backside, and this is the way that it hangs on the tree. So if you're harvesting it, you want to make sure that you're using the bottom side when you're putting in your arrangement, because you can just see that it has this nice lime green color to it. So when you put it next to the other greens, it really pops. Now the trick with cedar is you don't want to use too much of it, because a little bit of cedar, that's classy, but if you use a lot of it, it becomes trashy, and we don't want to have that in our pots. So now that we have those three greens in there, this is where we can say some of you might be happy with how they look. They look nice and full, or if you want to step it up a notch, you can use some other specialty greens that are not from Ontario, but that look really great in your arrangement. So one of the first ones that we like to work with is our Western Red Cedar, or BC Cedar. And this one here is one that you might recognize from all of the beautiful arrangements that you've ever dreamt about or you see in these nice properties around town. This is gorgeous stuff, and it's very long and droopy, and this is used as a skirting around the outside of your arrangement towards the bottom, so you can lift up the other greens that you might have in there and cut this to a shorter length and stick it in there. This will give you this beautiful draping, weeping look. So if you have an urn, it will actually cascade over the front and look really great. You'll look like a genius because you use this stuff, so I'd highly recommend that. Next, one of the ones we really like is another cedar, and this is incense cedar. And you can see on here that this cedar is not like any other, and that it has these little florets on the end, these little yellow florets. And this is, again, if you're looking at using this, it's great for using as a draping, cascading one that you'd want to put towards the front half or towards the bottom, so that it's draping, so that you can see these little yellow florets. It's really great if you're using some natural looks, because it complements so well with that yellow color in there. The next one that we have to give you a different color is actually going to be berried juniper. Love the smell of juniper, so it smells great in your arrangement, but also these have these little blue berries. And if you're using any naturals, or you have any metallics or silvers or blues, this is going to pair really, really well. You want to use this kind of sparingly in clusters. The next one that is one of Will's personal favorites is this silver fir. And so silver fir is kind of flat, as you can see, like this. So this is like similar to like a fir tree you might use for your Christmas tree. The front side is just a regular green, but the back side is this stunning silver color. So we love to use this with almost anything, because it goes with all your metallics, all your naturals, and you want to make sure that when you place it in your arrangement, again, you're cutting it to the right length that you want, but you're putting this silver side out, either kind of standing up like a peacock feather or falling down so that you can see the silver side on there. The next one is noble fir, which is similar to the silver fir, just a little bit less loud, more subtle, bluey silver kind of tones in that one. And again, it's nice and flat, and it's going to hold some of the greens back if you want to make little pockets for you to put your little picks or arrangements in. Because again, these are all of these greens that we've been talking about are all from the West Coast, so they come a long way away to be here. The next one that you can consider This one gives you a real contrast, a really sharp look is this Oregonia, which is basically a variegated type of boxwood. Big pro with this is that it looks totally different. It's got the white with the green. It's just really, really striking, and we're finding that this year this is really pairing well with some of our bleached product. The one downside that we want to mention with this one is that because of the green, it doesn't handle the winter very well. So this one is going to start browning out and looking a little bit tired by January. So if you're using this, make sure that you are aware of that, and you can take your pruning shears, and when it starts to brown out, you can actually just clip it out and it will continue to look fresh. The next one that we have is Magnolia. Ooh, we love the Magnolia because this has this beautiful velvety soft underside of the leaf. It's got this copper tone to it, and it's really, really striking again in all those natural tones there. It really makes your arrangement go from great to amazing. And with this one here, this is another one that's a southern green, so this one's actually coming to us from the Carolinas, which means that it's going to handle the winter about as well as somebody from the Carolinas would, which is not that great. So just be aware that it could start to look tired as we get really cold into January and February, but for a lot of people, myself included, we just make that sacrifice because it looks so darn pretty. The next one that we have is our berried holly, and this is really great. It's got these dark green leaves on there with the bright red berries. Really nice in your arrangements, but one word of advice on this one: make sure that you don't cut the stems too short, because the berries generally tend to be in the middle section, and so when you start to put them in your arrangement, the berries get buried. So make sure you place them properly so you can actually see them and appreciate them. The next one that we have is our eucalyptus. Smells great, looks great. This one here actually comes from California, so we like to use this one sparingly in high-end arrangements because it is pricey, and just make sure that you're aware that it will not look great all winter long, but looks really great. What we want to do with this one is use it towards the middle front, so it's draping over our arrangement and looking really great, just kind of on top of some of these other greens that we have here. If you would like any more information, you can leave us a message in the comment section below, or you can come in to talk to one of our day makers. We'd be happy to give you some suggestions to pair with the idea that you have to make your porch pots look amazing this winter.